They say never pick up hitchhikers, but what if the hitchhiker keeps finding you, no matter how far you drive? The highways of Texas stretch endlessly under the dark sky, lonely and unforgiving. For most truckers, it's just another route, another night on the job. But for one driver, what started as a routine trip turned into a nightmare he couldn't escape. This is the story of the haunted highway and the ghostly hitchhiker who refused to be left behind. Charlie's cab was his second home. As a long-haul trucker, he knew every shortcut, every speed trap, and every diner worth stopping at across the Southwest. But tonight felt different. The night sky was moonless, the kind of black that swallows the horizon. His rig hummed along an empty stretch of Highway 277, somewhere between Wichita Falls and Abilene. That's when he saw it. A figure on the shoulder of the road. The man stood still, his thumb extended in the universal gesture of the desperate. A hitchhiker? Charlie's first instinct was to keep driving. Hitchhikers were trouble. Everyone in his line of work had heard stories. Robberies, scams, worse. But something about this guy caught his attention. The hitchhiker was young, maybe mid-20s, dressed in an old denim jacket and jeans. He looked out of place, almost like he belonged to another time. And he was soaking wet, despite the fact that the nearest storm had been hours ago. Charlie sighed and eased his rig to a stop a few yards ahead. "Where are you headed?" Charlie called out as the guy approached. "West," the hitchhiker replied, his voice low and even. He climbed into the passenger seat, bringing with him a strange chill that made Charlie's skin prickle. At first, the ride was uneventful. The hitchhiker wasn't much of a talker, which suited Charlie fine. He'd learned to appreciate the silence of the road, but something felt off. Charlie couldn't shake the cold, no matter how high he cranked the heater. And the hitchhiker's presence, it was unsettling. He sat too still, his face partially hidden by the shadows of the cab. When he did speak, it was to give vague answers to Charlie's casual questions. "Where are you coming from?" "Around." "What were you doing out there in the middle of nowhere?" The hitchhiker didn't answer, just stared ahead at the dark road. The silence stretched thin. Finally, Charlie turned on the radio to break the tension. Static. He fiddled with the dial, but every station was the same. Dead air. "That's weird," he muttered. The hitchhiker turned to him then, his eyes strange. They seemed to catch the light in a way that made Charlie's stomach twist. "You should drop me off up ahead," the man said suddenly. Charlie frowned. "We're still in the middle of nowhere." "Just up ahead," the hitchhiker repeated. His voice was calm, but there was an edge to it, like a command. Against his better judgment, Charlie did as he was told. He pulled over near an unmarked dirt road, and the hitchhiker climbed out without a word. Charlie watched him disappear into the night, the beam of his headlights barely reaching the edge of the trees. Then he shrugged it off and got back on the highway. But the unease lingered. An hour later, Charlie spotted something up ahead, a figure standing on the side of the road. His heart sank. It was the hitchhiker. There was no way he could have gotten ahead of Charlie's rig, not without a car of his own. But there he was, standing in the exact same pose, thumb out, clothes still dripping wet. Charlie's hands tightened on the wheel. He had no intention of stopping this time. But as he approached, the hitchhiker's face turned toward the truck, and Charlie felt an icy dread grip him. The man's eyes glowed faintly in the dark, like an animal's caught in the light. He drove past without slowing down, his heart pounding. But a few miles later, he saw the hitchhiker again. Same spot, same pose, same dripping clothes. This time, Charlie couldn't ignore the fear clawing at his chest. He sped past and refused to look in the mirrors. He didn't want to know if the man was still there. The next time Charlie saw him, the hitchhiker wasn't on the side of the road. He was standing in the middle of the highway. Charlie slammed on the brakes, his rig screeching to a halt just inches from the man. The hitchhiker walked up to the driver's side window, his expression unreadable. "You can't leave me behind," he said, his voice echoing with something that wasn't entirely human. Before Charlie could react, the hitchhiker was gone. Not walking away, not stepping back into the shadows, just gone. Charlie never drove that stretch of Highway 277 again. He avoided night hauls for months and told himself it was just exhaustion, a trick of the mind. But deep down, he knew the truth. He wasn't the first to encounter the hitchhiker, and he wouldn't be the last. Truckers still whisper about the haunted highway, where some passengers refuse to stay in the past. So the next time you're driving alone at night, and you see someone standing by the road, think twice before stopping. Because once they get in your cab, they might never leave. Subscribe for more stories. Or watch the next one if you dare.